Today's skill, we're going to look at graphing inequalities, and this is a short, quick one. But let's review some of the fundamentals here. So the idea is that we're going to be able to graph all four of the different inequalities that there are on the number line. And when we're graphing those inequalities, there's two things that we're going to focus on. The first one is direction. So does my graph go to the left or does my graph go to the right? And then the second thing is, do we use an open or a closed circle at the starting point of the inequality? Okay, so quick review. The four inequalities are less than, so the point is pointing to the left, greater than when the point is pointing to the right. One way we would say that, or we would see this, is, for example, x is less than 4, and that's how we would say that out loud. X is less than 4. So we're talking about all numbers that are smaller than 4. Okay, I know this is, you guys probably know this, but just in case, quick review. For greater than, this, for example, would say y is greater than 3. So we're talking about numbers bigger than 3. One thing that's important to note is that the open side here points to the bigger number. So in this one, here's my open side. The bigger number would be here. So here's y. Y is the bigger number, so we want numbers that are bigger than 3. Down below, we have the other two inequalities. This first one is less than or equal to, and of course it's got the little line or the little bar underneath. So here we would say x is less than or equal to 5. Or excuse me, x less than or equal to -5 is what it says. And then greater than or equal to. So here we have x is greater than or equal to 0. So here we're talking about numbers bigger than 0 or 0 itself, since it could equal 0. Over here, we're talking about numbers that are smaller than -5 or -5 itself. So now let's talk about the graphing. Here's kind of a summary of the rules for graphing on a number line. We've got the four inequalities here. So if you're writing this in your notes, here's your title, Graphing on a Number Line. And let's go over some examples. If we have less than or greater than, we're going to use an open circle. So for these two inequalities, we use an open circle. If we're graphing less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to, we will use a closed circle for the starting point. If the inequality shows all of the numbers less than, we're going to shade to the left. If the inequality is showing all the numbers greater than, we're going to shade to the right. Now, this might be slightly different if your variable is on the right side of the inequality, but we'll talk about that next in just a minute. So let's go over these examples. If I want to shade or graph x is less than 4, remember this is talking about numbers smaller than 4. The first thing I'm going to do is use an open circle, and we have to figure out where 4 is. So a lot of times I like to figure out here's 0, and then you can plot 1, 2, 3, 4 would be right here. So it's nice to identify where 0 is, and then whatever the number is that you're looking at for the starting point. So x is less than 0, we would start at 4, and then we're going to shade all of the numbers to the left, because we want numbers smaller than 4. So when you're doing your shading, make sure that if you're using a pencil or whatever, you're making it thick enough so we can actually see which direction you're going on the number line. In the next one, we want to graph x is greater than 4. So again, the same thing. Here's 0. Here's 4. We're going to start with an open circle, but this time we're going to shade to the right because we want all of the numbers that are bigger than 4. So the open circle means that my value x can't equal 4. It's going to get really, really close to 4, but it's never going to equal 4. So all the numbers that are just a little bit smaller than 4, and then it keeps on going. Now in the next two examples, we're looking at less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. So same beginning, plot 0, we plot 4, but this time we're going to start with a closed circle. Since my value is allowed to equal 4, the closed circle, it tells me that my graph is showing all of the numbers and they can equal 4. And correspondingly, if I look at greater than or equal to, I would start at 4 with a closed circle and then shade to the right. All of the numbers that are bigger than 4, and of course 4 itself. So those are the basics of the graphing, but now let's just take it one little step further, and what happens when your variable is on the right hand side of your inequality. My suggestion is to rewrite the inequality so that the variable is on the left. So if you're looking at this equation right here, this inequality right here, -3 is greater than or equal to x. If I were to rewrite this inequality, I would say x is less than or equal to -3. Now I've changed the inequality, but that's because I've changed the side that x is on. Notice how the point here, the small point, is toward the x, and over here the small point is toward the x. In my inequality symbol over here, the opening is toward the -3, and over here the open side of this is toward the -3. So if I locate 0, -3 would be down 1, 2, 3 right here, so those are my kind of key points. And if I wanted to graph x is less than or equal to -3, I'd put a closed circle at -3, and I would shade to the left because I want all of the numbers that are smaller than -3. And that's all there is to it.